On our trek to understanding partial numbers, rational numbers, if you will, we talked about fractions with like denominators. We're not done with fractions. We're going to talk about unlike denominators very soon. We're going to kind of walking down the essentially easy mode and in these first few lessons here, and we're going to remind you, hopefully it's a reminder, how to add and subtract decimals. This really ought to be reviewed. We're just going to do couple of three examples, and then we're going to pass on. But we want to make sure that you remember. So I don't care. Go away. What we're going to do, we're going to start with doing 1.85 plus 6.27. Now, we're going to also, now remember when we did in our last video, we included integer rules. We're going to do the same thing here as well. We're going to practice that a lot as we continue on. So the first plan here is to stack them. I like to write the numerically larger number. Now, what do I mean by numerically? Well, pretending like there's no signs, negative or positive at first, on the top when we stack them. We also, when we're adding and subtracting, it's important that we line up that decimal place, right? So 6.27 plus 1.85. Now, this one's really straightforward. We started with a simple one that's very, very review, right? Because this one we just add. There's nothing fancy schmancy. The signs are the same. We add and keep the sign. All right, so 7, good grief, plus 5 is 12. We put a 1, we carry a 1 up there, and we put a 2 down there. 1 plus 2 plus 8 is 11. So we're going to carry the 1 up here. And then we end up with a 1 down here. Now, for addition subtraction, we can just bring that decimal place straight down. Right? 1 plus 6 plus 1 is 8. So that is our answer there. Let's do a second example. We'll throw in some negatives and such into this one. How about let's do negative 3.1 minus negative 3.875. Okay, so what do we need to do first before we even stack them? Because we got a negative in the middle. Since we got a negative in the middle, what do we do with that? Well, we ka-chink that thing. Oh, I dragged my things off in weird places. I think they're already kind of, I don't know. I'll fix that later off camera when I've got a minute or two. All right, so we're going to ka-chink those suckers first, right? Then we're going to put the numerically larger one on top. That's this guy. Now, it's this guy because this digit right here is bigger, right? The reason why I like to put the bigger one on top is that's one more reminder whether our answer is going to turn out positive or negative, because it's going to match that top one always in addition and subtraction. Now, as we've seen before, that's not always true in multiplication and division, right? That kind of is a totally different ball of wax, right? But let's go ahead and stack these guys. So we've got 3.875 positive minus 3.1. Now, there's places where it doesn't match, and that's happens sometimes with decimals, right? So what I like to do, and it's more about neatness, and that's to go ahead and add in some add in zeros anywhere where I don't have numbers lining up and not matching, because it just helps us keep everything nice and neat and organized. That's kind of the primary villain when we're talking about doing math at this level is if our work is not neat. And so we want to do everything we can to help that. Now, I didn't stop and look at this. We've got different signs, right? We've got a positive up here and we've got a negative down here. So we are going to subtract this time, right? So 5 minus 0 is 0. 7 minus 0 is 0. Did you catch me before? Did you catch the mistake before I caught the mistake? 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 0 is 7. 8 minus 1 is another 7. We're going to float that decimal on down. 3 minus 3 is a 0. Now, this is important. This really is important. When we're talking about decimals, writing this is not the same and is stupid and ugly as writing 0.775. I know I'm kind of running into the margin and off the screen here, but that zero we do need. It's partially for neatness. In fact, mostly for neatness. But that is important. That leading zero there is required for sure. Okay, let's do another example. Let's do. How about 3.565 minus 8.002? Okay, so we've got a negative in the middle. We're going to ka-chink that first. That's the first thing we're going to do, right? We're going to ka-chink it. All right, so the signs are different, positive, negative. We're going to subtract. We're still going to write the numerically larger one on top. Now, I like to write this. I'm going to enunciate this clearly here. This is going to look a little different than what you've seen before because we have negative 8.002. And you can put plus down here. I do just because we're used to seeing a symbol. So it's more of a weird habit than it is necessary. But I feel like it just kind of makes what we're seeing a little bit clearer. I'm not stressed about having this plus down here because we don't always put a plus next to the positive number. But just since we're writing it on the bottom, I usually do put that. It's kind of, at some point, it's kind of a little bit, whatever is a little bit more or less confusing. But again, we're subtracting, right? We're keeping the sign of the bigger, so our answer is going to be negative, and that's kind of why I like to put that negative up top instead. It's just one more clue, one more hint that our answer is going to be negative, right? So we've got to do 2 minus 5. We can't do that, so what do we got to do? We got to borrow, gotsta, right? So we're going to take a 7 off of here, turn this into a 10, but we got to borrow it and make it a 9. We've got to make that a 10, but borrow again, make it a 9, and then make this a 12, right? So then 12 minus 5 is 7. 9 minus 6 is 3. 9 minus 5 is 4. We're going to float our decimal down, put that right there, and our answer is negative 4.437. So that is it for that one, guys and gals. If you're one of my students, I'll see you in class. Do your homework, all the things. If you're not one of my students, thanks for joining us. Glad you're here. Let us know how else we can help you out with math, science, and homeschooling in general in the comments below. Bye-bye.